Connor, we are here. The final regular
Final
season
week.
week, which
Can
means
you believe it? Can you
we
believe it?
got, which means Connor, we have a 12 different scenario document laid out by the OUA. We will try to sift through it for you guys, but the biggest one that you guys need to know, our marquee matchup, the York Lions going to face the McMaster Marauders in Hamilton.
Kind of a big game. Kind of a big game.
Yeah, and I mean
Maybe just a bit of a big game.
we have two spots up for grabs. But
Yeah.
this York Mac game, Connor, of course, York has been very stout in their run defense, susceptible through the air, like we saw Tristan Aboud take advantage of. One would think that plays right into the hands of Keegan Hall and McMaster, but at the same time, if they're going to try and establish the same run they had with Duchesne against Waterloo last week, there is a world where York can kind of be feisty and hang around in this game defensively.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And obviously this is a different offense here coming up against the McMaster Marauders. But if we look at, what York did against common opponent of the Waterloo Warriors, as of late, York picking up their second win of the season over those Warriors. They held Nolan Caban and co to just 135 through the air on 43 passing attempts. This is an aggressive Greg Knox defense like we've been talking about all season long. And yes, this is Keegan Hall and the McMaster Marauders offense, and they love to throw the ball, and they do a very good job of getting the ball downfield. But as of late, against common opponent, the York Lions and that Greg Knox defense did their darn job. 135 on 43 attempts through the air.
Yeah, and I do want to
Impressive.
say I'd saved this nugget. I teased it on Tuesday. Uh, McMaster gave up a ton of yards in the run game against York. I think Meldris Alunga could have a big day and a big impact. But for me, Connor, it almost feels like York is on this rise. They have this tidal wave of adrenaline and excitement brought to you by Coach Janke. And McMaster, meanwhile, this is not the McMaster football program of the last decade. And I know it's been a while for them to really be on that forefront, but right before we went into the COVID year, they were in the Yates Cup and they were celebrating with a trophy. And Connor, it feels like McMaster is just kind of holding on for dear life, and York is riding this wave of emotion. And I want to see so badly which one crashes and which one prevails. We'll see how this one works out Saturday in Hamilton.
Both of Mac's last two wins have been 2-point ball games. They pick up the 34-32 win over the Waterloo Warriors in overtime. They had the bye week, and just previous to that, they picked up a 36-34 win over the Carlton Ravens. And Mac is coming away with wins. And obviously that is the most important stat in the stat column. The W. Huge. Not taking anything away, but these games have been tight. And all I'm saying here with this kind of close game thing is that York is playing darn good football, and I think that they do have a chance against these McMaster Marauders who have played tight games as of late. And that's all that I was really trying to say there.
Perfect. Well, let's move on. A couple games out of the nation's capital that we can quickly talk about. Carlton hosting the Laurier Golden Hawks. With Laurier securing the one seed, we don't know how much of the starters we will play. We know that you want to get some reps and involvement this week, but certainly for Laurier, they are looking to just get out of this road trip healthy, get back to the KW area. If this was a full game between Taylor and Elijah Barnes, I think it would be a really good matchup. But Connor, I think Carlton's trying to go into the offseason on a positive note with their young quarterback. They're going to play to their strengths. They're going to be firing the ball down the field. Can they make the big plays to stay with Laurier? Absolutely. Will Laurier be as gung ho and fighting tooth and nail and being physical to try and scratch this one out when it really doesn't mean anything to them in the long run? We don't quite know.
It'll be interesting to see, right? I mean, like obviously competitors are going to compete, and I don't fully expect Laurier to take a foot off the gas here, but it's just, whose foot is on the gas? Is it going to be, Taylor Algorithm's foot for 4 quarters here? We're not sure, but nonetheless, this is an important game for the Carlton Ravens. If they win, this could have some implications here, right?
So if Carlton wins, Connor, and York beats McMaster, all three teams being at 3-5, the following would be it would be Carlton at 7, York and McMaster missing because of the common wins and point differential. So uh, big implications here for Carlton. They still have a shot at this in more than one way. They could be the sixth seed, depending on how the other game in the nation's capital goes.
Yeah, that other game being the Ottawa GGs taking on your Toronto Varsity Blues. Ottawa coming off a week of rest. Before that, they took a 35-32 win in the Panda game. I thought I just should remind everybody out there of that fact. It was a 35-32 win for the sixth straight Panda game for the Ottawa GGs. But nonetheless, Wade, this one means something to Ottawa too, as we just mentioned. They're looking for a win here because a win could mean a playoff berth for the Ottawa GGs if things fall their way. And
A
for Toronto,
win.
for your Toronto Varsity Blues, they're looking to bounce back after two sizable losses.
Yeah, I think with Ottawa, Connor, win does lock them in, but the biggest thing for them is avoiding that 3-5 logjam that could be with York, McMaster, Carlton, a combination of any of those schools. There is a world, Connor, where if Ottawa, York, McMaster, and Carlton are all at 3-5, the Ottawa GGs find themselves out of the playoffs because of that loss to Toronto that could happen this week. So I think realistically, we're going to see a healthy dose of Jansen throwing the ball downfield again. They're going to use Charles Lane, but I think for them in this one, keep his legs as fresh as possible for the playoffs, uh, because we know he's going to be touching the ball 30 plus times then. So Ottawa, avoid going into that 3-5 logjam, build off of that Panda win with Jansen and Asselin in the backfield.
They don't call it a workhorse for nothing, right? They do not call it a workhorse for nothing. I expect to see plenty of Charles Asselin in that game, but we're going to go to another team. Speaking of horses, the Western Mustangs taking on the Windsor Lancers. Again, two playoff teams here going head to head to close out the season. Western coming off that 61-6 dominant win over Toronto, and Windsor a tight, tough loss, 33-26 to the Laurier Golden Hawks last week. Two teams, big records, head to head, end of the season here.
Yeah, and I think the big one with the Western Mustangs here, Connor, is locking in that 2 seed for themselves. I think with Windsor coming on the road here, they are going to try and steal that because they can climb high up into this 2 to 5 range with Guelph and Western. But the big one for the Mustangs is taking care of business on home field. They don't lose very often in London. So I think for Evan Hillock, Keon Edwards, Mo Jamal. These veteran guys want to finish their careers at Western well. The playoffs, they will be able to host a game, but senior day, you go out on top. I think that Western is going to just kind of use that mixed attack. I think their defense is really going to shine here, though, Connor. What Windsor has not thrown the ball well. If you try to throw against Jackson Finley, it does not work. That has been proven for a handful of years. So, Western defense pulling away, using timely turnovers to kind of salt this one out.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. You say the name Jackson Finley, and I just have to kind of agree. I find myself agreeing with any sentence that his name is involved with because it's usually pretty positive, right? Last game of the week here, the Queens Gales taking on the Waterloo Warriors. Queens
Homecoming.
sitting at 4-3, homecoming, and the Gales sitting at 4-3 could find themselves with a 5-3 record if things go their way when all said and done by the end of this weekend. But it is the 4-3 Queens Gales taking on the Waterloo Warriors to end out the season, regular season for the Queens Gales.
The formal attire will be on for the coaching staff. The Queen's Golden Gales will be looking sharp, paying homage to older teams that were. But this team needs to get back in their groove, Connor, and that's going to look like Jared Cesare. Of course, they had the bye week last week, no games for Queens, kind of a timely bye week as you head into this late stretch. We don't know if quarterback Alex Freakin will be back under center after missing the last couple games, but I think that this defense needs to step up and help out whatever quarterback, whether it's a first game back Freakin or a young Anthony Leo. It's all about this Queens defense and how they shut down Springer and Caban in the backfield.
I am 100% with you. That backfield for Waterloo is dangerous, but this defensive front for Queens, very disruptive in their own right. This is going to be two smash mouth teams going head to head. It's going to be some exciting football to close out the season, to close out the regular season. And Wade, what a wild sentence to say. We are already on the horizon of the playoffs in the OUA. It's going to be exciting, and you can catch all the action on OUA.tv. And yes, it is nearing playoff time in OUA football, but do not forget there's plenty of other action going on across the sports landscape of the OUA, and you can catch it all on OUA.tv. That does it for myself and Wade this week for the OUA show. You can catch us at Wade Zank, at Connor R. O'Neill, at CF Perspective, at OUA Sport. Please stay
Connor,
tuned.
quick note before we go. All games at 1 o'clock. Nobody is scoreboard watching
All gas,
except
no
for
breaks. Let's go.
us lovely fans here on the sidelines. Use OUA TV, sign into
Yes.
multiple devices because this is going to have a handful of really good football games all going down at the same exact time. Take care. We'll see you next week.
See you in the playoffs.